Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Tonight's video is actually one of those that when I was first sent it, I wasn't sure what it was, other than a performance by Jessie J, and she was singing I Have Nothing, and yeah, this looked like it was on some kind of TV show, but I later then found out from looking into it a little bit more that this was like a singing competition for professional singers, and she was one of the competitors for it, and this is from 2018, and it's just called Singer. But we will have a listen to this isolated vocal of Jessie's and see how she gets on.
Share my life, take me for what I am, 'cause I'll never change all my colors for you. Take my love, I've never asked for too much, just all that you are and everything that you do.
So you can actually see in the background that occasionally it cuts to people looking almost like they're judging it, and I'm assuming that there was maybe a judging panel, and I think people voted in the audience on these professional singers as to, you know, who's better or best or who wins in the end. And I think Jessie J actually won in the end of this particular season of it. So just going back, I know that people who've been watching the channel for a long time will be looking at these lines thinking, this seems to be very accurate indeed all the time. And yeah, you'd be right with that, because I mean, Jessie's got a great voice and is really accurate pitch-wise. And here, you know, we're bang on the E4, we're then a little bit sharp of the E4, then we're directly over the E4, directly over the E4, directly over the D4. And as we work our way through, again, D4 centralized, G4 centralized. Here, we were just off a little bit. And as we come through, again, here, E4, and then the E4 here. And I'm just going to let this play through a little bit more.
I don't want to have to go where you don't follow. I can hold it back.
And we start to get this kind of thing where we have a slide and we're stopping off directly over these lines.
This passion inside can't run from myself. There's nowhere to hide.
And now we get to this part, which is the giveaway, really. The D4 here on the line, the E4 actually on the line, the F sharp 4 on the line. We come up, we touch the G4, and then we are straight over that A4 for this held note. So, to cut a long story short, for this particular competition, where they've got professional singers all competing against each other, we're listening to a pitch-corrected vocal. And it's reached the point now where I don't really know what to think anymore about anything, because we've had videos in the past on The Voice and The X Factor, and these things where we've found that it's been, you know, post-pitch corrected or even auto-tuned, and with that kind of thing, it is a talent contest, apparently, but you can understand from that financial perspective, if Simon Cowell wants to sign somebody to his label, and that's always the prize at the end, is to get a record deal, you know, with Simon Cowell's label, if we're talking about the X Factor. And you can understand from that financial perspective that Simon Cowell will say, well, I want this kind of singer because I haven't got that kind of singer on my label. So it would obviously make sense to pitch correct somebody's voice that you want to win the competition to sound better than other contestants. And obviously kind of lay into that backstory as well in order to ensure that, you know, Simon Cowell gets the type of artist he wants, but then obviously roll that up into a reality singing show. because then you've already got an audience for the people that watch the show will already know the artist before then releasing any music. So you've done all of the hard work of the marketing. But for this, I don't understand this on any level, why you would take professional singers' voices, in this case Jessie J, who's an amazing singer, and pitch correct her voice on a show that is supposed to be about professional singers. So they've already got past the point of learning to sing and maybe wanting to do it as a career. They've already got past that and they've had a successful career themselves. So we already know that they can sing really well. So why this incessant tuning of the voice to A440 standard pitch, equal temperament? You can see it clear as day that we are being calibrated to these lines. Look at this up here. The D5, absolutely over that line. Yeah, and there you go. As it moves down, you can see straight over there. So the voice that is shown to everybody publicly is not the actual voice that was happening on the night. And this is where I think it really has now gone too far, because you think, well, if this is being edited, which shouldn't have to be edited at all, because it's not like somebody who can't sing or is not very good having to be edited to sound better. This is a professional competition, because this is setting the bar at an impossible level for singers that might watch, you know, Jessie J or be a fan of hers and think, oh, she's got an amazing voice. Let's see how accurate her voice is. Oh, you know, she's always over these lines. Let me try and do that. And they'll realise that they can't do that, and that Jessie J can't do this. It's a mechanical manipulation of the voice to sticking it on these lines and tuning it. We will listen on. I mean, whenever we get a held note, we are going to be perfectly over these lines. And I can say that with confidence for this whole performance. There we go, again, and again, you know, just for this tiny section. But anything that's going to be held for any length of time, yeah, it's just going to be over these lines all the time, which just doesn't happen. It's impossible to do this from a human singing perspective. And not only is it impossible, but it is incorrect. You don't want to be on these lines all the time. If you are, then you're singing. You can't sing like a piano, because that's what talkbox is. But say, for example, that a human voice could do this. It can't, but just in case it could, it still wouldn't be the most accurate place to be, because of, well, expression and microtones being outside of these lines. That's where expression lives. But just how sound works and equal temperament, it is not an accurate system. It's something that we've invented to try and make every note in every octave equal. The clue's in the name of it, equal temperament. But anyway, I'm just going to roll this forward, because any held note, I mean, even this, you know, take a look at that. B4 on the line, on the line, on the line, A4 on the line, on the line, on the line, on the line. And now when I go back to that Karen Carpenter video where I show her hitting 2 or 3 lines in a vocal phrase, and that's kind of, you know, the best of the best. And I'm sure that Jessie's voice is really accurate as well. But when we're talking about the best of the best, and then we're talking about mechanical manipulation of pitch, that's what this is. There's no way that a human voice would do this, would hit so many lines. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, technically 8, but even if we're just counting 7, going from the best, I would say probably the best of all time, hitting 2 or 3, to then 7. And, you know, I'm just going to put on screen, and I'll have to change the screen to see it. I want to put on screen the original by Whitney Houston. I'll just let this play through a little bit.
My life, take me forward.
And technically, straight away, you'd say that Whitney was sharp here. And just for reference, this is a studio recorded vocal by Whitney Houston. It's not a live vocal. So that means that they spent quite a lot of time on this, getting a particular feel to it and deciding, you know, which of the takes that she might have done were the best take, or even, you know, taking little sections of one take and another take. I want to try and get to a held note. So you can see the difference between the pitch corrected vocal on the left and here we go. So this is Whitney Houston's studio vocal, and look at where it is on the right hand side. It's above the A4. It's clearly not on that line, and here the A4 is perfectly over the line. So this is what you'll see, is that a natural vocal very rarely, especially holding a note, is over this line, and sometimes it'll be on the line and then drift a little bit flat, drift a little bit sharp. It's never calibrated perfectly to a line. I mean, a great singer, especially in the studio, a great singer like Whitney Houston would have the ability to maybe replicate this kind of thing once in a performance, but yeah, generally the emotion of what's being sung will come through. Therefore, it's not always going to be perfectly over this line. Move this forward. Hey, here we go. This is what I'm talking about here, that Whitney Houston definitely in the studio would be over a line. Now and again, not all the time, because she had expression in her voice. But this is a good example of being pretty much, for a natural voice, as close as you can get. I mean, we start out directly over the line and we go a tiny, tiny bit sharp by maybe 1 or 2 cents, but not, noticeably. But again, this is in a controlled condition. And the important thing about this is when you have a note that is perfectly over this line on the right hand side, it's not being calibrated to anything. That's just where the singer has decided to place that particular pitch or frequency. So when she then doesn't hit a line like this, it means that this now has a different expression to this. So it's giving you something different because you're not hearing these lines. You're not hearing, oh, directly over the line. Oh, that was sharp of the line. When you're listening to a vocal performance, all we're doing is taking in the expression of the note. And if they're all over the lines all the time, you get the same expression from every single note. But if you get a variation, which happens in a natural voice, when it is over the line, guess what? It doesn't sound pitch corrected or auto-tuned because of all the other things that are surrounding it. It just so happens that it was over the line, but it's not being calibrated to them. Another good example here, we do get a little bit of a flow here from Jessie J's voice. So at least that might have been Jessie J's actual voice that hasn't been ridiculously manipulated to be a perfectly straight line. So we've got a bit of a flow here, which is good. And you can see actually how we start a bit sharp, come a little bit flat, and then over the line, and we come flat again here. And with Whitney's studio vocal over the line, we then go a little bit up, and then we come down at the end. So we've got this natural tendency by both singers to start decreasing in pitch, I think because then we slide down. But, I mean, it shows you that at least they left that note in, I think, from Jessie J's performance. And again, kind of more calibration going on here. And with Whitney's voice flat, and then we drift through the line, come down to the line, go sharp of the line again. And as we move things forward, here again, really calibrated here, but here slightly sharp down to the line, slightly sharp at the end. This one hasn't been given freedom to go anywhere. And just move forward a little bit more. Here, I mean, I think maybe the phrasing of this vocal, or at least there's a little bit of extemporization maybe. Yeah, perfect example there with Whitney holding that note sharp of the A4, and Jessie J's was again directly over the line, and the A sharp 4 directly over the line. So yeah, I mean, there's no way that this is anything other than manipulated on the left hand side. It's just always going to be a little bit of freedom here, so this might have been a natural note. But again, you can say, well, how do you know what is somebody's actual voice when it's been so heavily manipulated that it's always over these lines on the left hand side? And again, Whitney here slightly flat and then went up to it. Having that slight variation in the voice is absolutely normal. And again here, slightly flat and ascending. So yeah, and again, just calibrated to the A4 on the left-hand side. Yeah, it's clear on the left-hand side that we're absolutely calibrated. But the thing for me is what this has come from, that it's a singing competition for professional singers, and the audience aren't even allowed, when you're watching this show, to hear their actual voices and their natural pitch accuracy, because surely that is something that people would judge a voice on. It's a huge part of singing, having the ability to hit pitches accurately, and it's something that singers can spend years on. And to not be able to hear that, it means, well, how do you decide who's a better singer than another singer if you've got two vocalists that sound exactly the same from an accuracy perspective? Generally, what will happen is a more trained voice will be more accurate. That's just how it works. You get better at hitting pitches the more you work at it. So yeah, for this, like I said earlier in this video, I don't know where we go from here. Maybe with the talent shows using people that you don't really know who aren't professional singers, yeah, there's a reason to do it. But pitch correcting professional singers when they're competing against each other, it just doesn't make any sense. Everyone has gone crazy on pitch correction, and no one is allowed to do anything other than be now calibrated to this system, which has never been calibrated to previously in previous generations, because all people had to work with was tape, and have to speed up tape and slow it down, and it would be an absolute nightmare. You could not do this back in the day. So yeah, it's something that's never been done in the previous 60 plus years of the music industry, but now it is done all the time. Even to professional singers who are competing against each other, you are not allowed to hear natural voices anymore. And yeah, this is really the proof of it. So yeah, a bit of a bombshell for tonight. I've got a very good idea of where to go from here for the good of the music industry in the future, and I will be doing something in the future in order to maybe cause a bit of a fork in the road so that people will know what's going on, and people will know when somebody's genuinely singing, and they might have worked at their voice. And Jessie J has the ability to sing really accurately because she's worked at her voice, but we're not getting to appreciate that. Thank you guys for requesting this particular performance for me to take a look at. Keep the suggestions and requests coming in the comment section below. As always, let me know what you guys think, and if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys at the next one. Rock!